Welcome back to the Badass Broadcast, where we don't bypass or perform healing, we embody it. I am your host, favorite fire starter and nervous system regulator, the Queen Lady T, and today we're talking about something that quietly runs a lot of people's lives. We're talking about guilt, not the dramatic kind, not the I did something awful kind, the subtle, chronic, lingering kind, the kind that becomes personality. The kind that whispers, you should still be paying for that. Because here's a truth that's about to shake something loose. Guilt is meant to guide you, not cage you. And if it's still lingering long after the lesson is learned, it's not guilt anymore. So let's talk about what it actually is. Let's get into it.
Step into the spotlight, let yourself shine.
So when I first shared that line, guilt is meant to guide you, not cage you, grown adults felt it in their bones. But here's what I noticed. Resonance doesn't equal integration. People can feel truth, but that doesn't mean they know how to live it. A lot of people are still carrying guilt that already did its job. If guilt is still sitting in your body years later, it's not guiding you anymore. It's camping. And we don't let expired emotions renew leases around here. So let's strip this down. Healthy guilt says, that wasn't aligned. That needs repair. That's not who you want to be. And that's useful. Healthy guilt leads to accountability, change, repair, growth. And then it releases. Unhealthy guilt loops, lingers, becomes identity, turns into self-punishment. If guilt is still speaking, ask what it already taught you, not what it wants to punish you with. Because once the lesson lands, guilt has no purpose. Okay, so if it's not guilt, what is it? See, if guilt has already done its job and it's still there, it's usually one of two things: grief or shame. Grief shows up when you realize you didn't know better then. You see the cost of what happened. You're mourning who you were. You're mourning what you lost. Grief is clean pain. It moves when you let it. And then there's shame. Shame says, something is wrong with me. I should have known. I don't deserve grace. Shame doesn't guide, it cages. Grief lets you grow. Shame keeps you small. And too many people confuse the two. There's another place guilt shows up that we need to talk about, and that's grief. If you've ever lost someone, a relationship, a version of your life, or even a version of yourself, you may have noticed something strange. When grief hits, the brain will sometimes create guilt because blame feels safer than accepting that some things were never in our control. It makes us take responsibility for things that were never ours to carry. I should have done more. I should have known. I should have shown up differently. Why did I survive when they didn't? If I had just done this one thing differently. And suddenly, the brain starts rewriting the story. But here's what's actually happening. Your nervous system is trying to make sense of loss. Grief is chaotic. Loss reminds us that we are not in control of everything. And the human mind hates that. So the brain does something sneaky. It creates guilt. Because guilt gives the illusion of control. If something was your fault, then maybe it could have been prevented. And weirdly enough, the brain sometimes prefers that story because it feels safer than accepting that some things are simply out of our control. So in grief, guilt often shows up as an attempt to organize chaos. It has nothing to do with you being responsible, but because your mind is trying to find a place to put the pain. This is why people experience things like survival's guilt. The mind asks questions that don't actually have answers. Like, why them and not me? And when there's no answer, the brain fills the silence with blame. But that doesn't mean the blame is true. Sometimes guilt and grief is just love looking for somewhere to land. It's the mind trying to process the weight of caring deeply about someone or something that's gone. And part of healing is learning to gently separate responsibility from grief. You can mourn someone. You can wish things had been different. You can feel the weight of love and loss without carrying blame that was never yours to hold. Because grief deserves to move. But guilt that isn't yours, that deserves to be set down. You're allowed to grieve what happened without sentencing yourself for something that was never your crime. And this is where the distinction we talked about earlier becomes really important. Grief softens and moves when it's allowed. Shame freezes and cages. So the real question becomes, is this grief asking to be felt? Or is this shame asking to be released? One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck in guilt and shame is because they confuse two very different things, and that's shame and accountability. A lot of people believe if they stop shaming themselves, they're letting themselves off the hook. But that's not accountability, that's punishment. And those two are not the same thing. That's just a bullshit story you've been sold. See, accountability says, I see what happened. I understand my part. I'm willing to learn and do better. It's honest, grounded, and moves forward. But shame says something very different. Shame says, because of this, something is wrong with me. I'm the problem. I don't deserve grace. I should keep suffering for this. Accountability looks at behavior. Shame attacks identity. And when identity gets involved, growth gets stuck. Because you can change behavior. But if you believe you are the problem, then there's nowhere to go. So people stay in this strange emotional loop where they think they're being responsible. But what they're actually doing is keeping themselves small. Self-punishment feels like maturity, but it's not. Real accountability is powerful because it allows change. Shame doesn't create change. Shame creates hiding. People hide from their mistakes. They hide from conversations. They hide from growth because shame makes the nervous system feel unsafe to be seen. But accountability does the opposite. It says, I'm human, I'm capable of learning, and I'm capable of doing better. And that is evolution. This is where a lot of religious and cultural conditioning comes in. Many of us were raised in systems where suffering was treated like proof of goodness, where if you felt bad long enough, you were somehow redeemed. But growth doesn't come from dragging the past behind you forever. Growth comes from integrating the lesson. You acknowledge it, you repair what you can, you grow from it. Then you move forward, not because it didn't matter, but because the lesson already landed. Growth requires honesty, not lifelong self-punishment. Accountability creates change. Shame just keeps you staring at the past. Let's talk about integration, because this isn't about fixing yourself, it's about asking better questions. So sit with this. What did guilt already teach me? What am I still punishing myself for? Is this grief asking to be felt, or is this shame asking to be challenged? You don't heal by carrying it longer. You heal by listening, learning, and letting it go. And as we work through integration, let's take a moment to let this land in the body. All right, sit up nice and tall, feet on the floor if you can. One hand on your chest, one hand on your stomach. And we're going to inhale slowly through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now silently ask yourself, what am I ready to stop carrying? And just notice what comes up. We're not fixing in this moment. No arguing with it, just witnessing. Now take one more deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. And imagine unlocking a cage door inside your chest. You don't have to drag anything out, just open it. Let it know it's free to leave. Listen, you are not meant to live in permanent punishment. You're meant to evolve. And if this episode hit you, share it. And if you're ready to move guilt out of the body, not just understand it in your head, check the links below for breath work, Reiki sessions, and deeper integration work. I'll catch you next week. Until then, stay sovereign, stay soft, stay powerful, and remember, you are an unstoppable badass, worthy of everything your heart desires. Let's get it.
The spark ignites a revolution born in the firelight. No more hiding, no playing small. It's time to rise, we're claiming it all.
If this episode spoke to your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it, send it to someone who needs a dose of badassery in their life. Want to be a guest on the show? Got a powerful story, message, or mission? Apply now at unstoppablebadass.me. Need a high vibe home for your healing and growth? Join my free Facebook community, The Elevated Soul Tribe. It's where soul-led women come to rise, connect, and stay real. If you're a seer, light worker, or spiritual badass who's done shrinking, step inside the fire and rise with us in Sacred Wildfire, my virtual queen circle. Feeling stuck or ready to break through? Book your free badass breakthrough session and let's uncover what's been holding you back. Clarity, power, momentum, all waiting on the other side. Ready to activate your healing gifts? Enroll in my Kundalini Reiki activation and attunement course. Step into or deepen your healer's journey with sacred energy work that transforms you from the inside out. Want to show some love? Donate or shop at buymeacoffee.com/The Queen Lady Tea, because your support helps me keep lighting fires and dropping truth. You can find all these links in the show notes, the description, or at unstoppablebadass.me. Thank you so much for rocking with me, and I'll catch you in the next episode of the Badass Broadcast.
It's the Badass Broadcast. Claim your crown. No limits, no boundaries, no backing down. For the dreamers, the fighters, the ones who dare to rise from the ashes to take their share. This is your anthem, your power unleashed, a movement of love, a force of peace. It's the Badass Broadcast. It's your time, step into the spotlight, let yourself shine.